What is going on, everyone? We are here with another episode of the Spotlight series hosted by yours truly, ACK. Y'all know the drill at this point is we're up over 100 episodes now and we're just slowly having a blast with it. And I mean, I was just talking to someone the other day about this. Like, it's crazy to think I started this in 2020, which was 3 years ago now, just sitting at home during the pandemic and everything. And I was just like, you know what? One day I just said, I'm going to do this and see what happens. And I have just met so many amazing artists. And it's truly been really a special thing for me to just be able to make these connections and make new friends and just hear people's stories through music. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're here today to do. And today I welcome Ariadne Mila. How are you today?
Hey, good. How are you?
And not too bad. I always just like to give a big thank you to the artists for taking time out of their day to sit here and talk about their story through music. It always just means a lot to me for them to just take time because I know everyone's always super busy, whether it's either with work or writing music and producing and stuff like that. So just thank you for taking time to be here.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking me to be here. And it's great to sit down with you and talk. I really love just what you're creating and cultivating this really supportive community. So thank you for what you're doing as well.
No, of course. So really kind of just diving right into the first question. It's always the basic of basics, and it
Mhm.
really just kind of sets up the whole interview. But it's where did everything kind of start for you music-wise? Because I know for some people it starts the day they were born. They start humming nursery rhymes and stuff like that, and then it just develops from there. They start playing piano, guitars, and stuff and start singing. But I always like to then compare it to the other half of some people like myself who really only started songwriting and producing and stuff back in 2018. So that was
Mhm.
only about like 5 years ago. And so,
Yeah.
kind of for you, is where did singing and playing kind of come about for you?
I think I don't know if this is going to be a cliche answer. I feel like this is the answer that a lot of people give, but it's like, it was in my family. Um, and so, because my mom's a singer, she's been in choirs and stuff her whole life. And my dad plays guitar. My family is really musical. So I'm Filipino, and a big part of Filipino culture is music and it's singing. Every Filipino party you go to, there's going to be a karaoke machine. And so I think it's just having it be a part of the culture. That's really kind of how I got into it.
Yeah.
And I think I just saw really how powerful music could be, how connecting it was. Because a lot of like the memories I have as a kid, like visiting family, was we were singing or we were playing. Or, one of the parents was like telling their kid, like, hey, I pay for piano lessons, go play for us. um, and so, yeah, so I think from an early age, I think I just saw how powerful music could be and how much it could bring people together. And it always just colored all the memories that I have. Like there was always music in there. So I think that's kind of where it started. And so yeah, so it's been in my family, and um, I think also just learning to kind of forge my own way and forge my own sound. Also, I think because it was in my family, I was like, how I gotta be different. And so, so yeah, I think really it started kind of with my family.
Yeah, and no, and that's awesome. And that's really kind of how I got into my love for music before. Like, I mean, like I said, I didn't start songwriting until 2018. That's when my grandfather had passed away, and that's how I wrote my first ever song. But kind of before then, we always listened to music in my house, like growing up. Like everyone knows, like I love country music. That's like what I grew up on. Like when my mom would be cleaning the house and stuff during the day, like it would just be all those country artists just playing. And like I've just always loved music too. Like I always tell people is I could sit here and list off hours worth of inspirations that I have. And it's kind of leading into this next question. It's always one of my favorites to kind of hear who other
Yeah.
people really get inspired by and look up to. But I always like to just shout out Chris Daughtry because I'm hoping one day that he'll end up seeing this at some point. I actually had the chance to talk to him for like literally like 2 minutes and 30
Oh,
seconds over
no
like
way.
yeah, during the pandemic, he
Oh,
was doing
man.
like the virtual stuff, so I ended up getting like a meet and greet package. So I talked to him, but I'm hoping one of these days maybe he'll see one of these interviews and realize, oh, this kid keeps saying my name every interview, so maybe I should talk to him. But
That is
um,
so cool.
yeah, no, it was such an amazing experience. And like, there's so many inspirations out there when it comes to when you're songwriting and when you're like actually singing and stuff. Like, you have these inspirations that you just look up to and you're inspired by. So kind of for you is who are some artists that you kind of really look up to when it comes to songwriting and actually singing?
Yeah. So I'm a millennial. I'm dating myself here. And so I started writing songs around the time that Avril Lavigne came out with Complicated. I think that song was what inspired me to start because I heard that she had written that song and I was like, that is so cool. I was 10 at the time
Yeah.
and I wanted to be just like her. I even dressed like her. And and so yeah, so those kind of I don't know how, like singer-songwriter, pop, Avril Lavigne, Michelle Branch, Vanessa Carlton. Vanessa Carlton's a huge inspiration for me as well, and she plays the piano like me. And I believe she was classically trained, and so that was something I was like, oh, there's a space for somebody who has that classical background, who loves doing that kind of melodic piano thing, like with pop. And so those are kind of my biggest inspirations. As far as songwriting, Sarah Bareilles and Lin-Manuel Miranda are kind of my two. I love Hamilton and In the Heights, and just anything that he does. And yeah, and I also take a lot of inspiration, I think, from the people that I work with and my friends in the industry. And so I try my best to always, sorry, I've got a dog in here.
No, you're good.
I try my best to always, support them the way I would support these celebrities that I don't even know,
Yeah.
because it's just about cultivating that community. And so, yeah, so my friend Amrita Soon, she's an amazing writer. Lauren Patton, who I just worked with for a song that Rachel Ayo released, and it's so great because we've been talking a lot. We met through NSAI at the Tin Pan seminar,
Mhm.
and we were both so new to releasing music, and so we were kind of there to like help each other out, and we would talk all the time about like questions we had. And so it's such a cool like kind of full circle moment that like we ended up working together on a song. So yeah, so the people that I work with, Laura Mustard, who's one of my best friends, and she is an incredible songwriter as well. I think she's just very honest and very authentic, and her content just like cheers you up. So yeah, so those are I work with some really great musicians as well.
No, and that's awesome. And honestly, like it's crazy how everything just comes full circle because that's how we met is because of Rachel AO and stuff
Yes.
like that. Because like the minute you said that, I'm like, it just made everything spin in my head because that's how small of a world it can be sometimes. And that's just really what's super powerful about making those connections because I had Rachel AO on a while ago, I think last year at some point, and then
Yeah.
she was on one of the showcases that I hosted, and then actually I was just on with her and Lauren. I, probably like a month or two ago now. We were talking about her new song that was just coming out. So it's always just crazy to me. Like so you mentioned them and like to have like everything just come full circle like that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And obviously talking about a lot of these artists and stuff like that, like just the songwriting aspect of things is really what draws me into music. Like just the storytelling and the emotions that people can really pour into songs is really what drives me to be an artist because I love I love telling a story. And at the end of the day is if I can go out of my way to write a song that's going to help other people down the line, then to me like I can just say, okay, I did something successful today. Like I wrote a song that's gonna help other people. And when people reach out and say, like, hey, like this song like just hit different and like really helped me, like I feel accomplished at that point.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's kind of getting to this third question is always
Mhm.
talking about the creative process. It's always one
Yeah,
of my favorite questions to ask. And obviously, you know, as an artist, I know as a songwriter, like there is no rhyme or reason sometimes to
right.
how these things go. Like I
Mhm.
tell people sometimes it comes at 1 a.m., sometimes it comes at 1 in the afternoon. Like sometimes it comes while you're driving, while you're singing in the shower, because everyone's a shower singer. We all know that. But it's in the songwriting process is like a puzzle. Like you have all these pieces and you just need to
Yeah.
like fit them all together and figure out how like what fits where, and slowly you put the border together, slowly you put the middle together. So kind of for you is what is your process like when it comes to creating music?
Yeah, I really love how you put that. Like it's like you have all the pieces because that's kind of I feel like the best part of the songwriting process is when you have all the components down. Like, okay, now I know what the melody is going to be for the verse, for the chorus. If there's a pre, like what the melody is going to be for that. And I know what I want to write in each part. And now it's just a matter of like, okay, how do I craft each line? So that's a really cool way that you put that. And I think for my process, it changes every time.
Mhm.
I think in general, like I do like to outline the melody first because it gives me some kind of place to start, but sometimes it doesn't happen that way. Sometimes it's a lyric and then I craft the melody around the lyric. So it really does kind of depend on the song. I almost treat it like it's like when you're a sculptor and you're chipping away at this block of marble.
Yeah.
The song is in there. You're just trying to find it. And so that's kind of how I am. So yeah, I think I usually start by like just kind of playing around. Sometimes it really just depends on like how I'm feeling. Sometimes it's a piano day and I'm just playing around on the piano and something comes, or it's a line that I have, and I keep like a little in my notes app. I keep whenever I think of something, I'm like, oh, I'm just write that down, and then I can look through
Yep.
all of that and see like, yeah, get some ideas. So yeah, and I also think too, I don't like to wait for inspiration. It does when
Yeah.
it strikes, it is definitely, something really special. But I think of the creative process as like a muscle, and
Mhm.
so every day you have to exercise it, and then that helps you find inspiration faster the more you do it. So every day, if it's riffing around on the piano or if it's free writing, even if none of it rhymes, but I'm just getting ideas down, that counts for something. And so yeah, so I try to just do something songwriting every day, and then eventually, you do get something, and the pieces kind of all fall together. So yeah.
No, and that's awesome because like it's always so cool how some people start with a melody and then they work on the lyrics from there. But then also like I always compare it to someone like myself who starts with the lyrics because I'm a huge lyric person. And then
Yeah.
I focus on the melody later. So it's always cool to just really hear how
Mhm.
everything comes about because it's an art to be able to sit there and create a song and write lyrics and stuff like that. So like I forget who I was talking to a few interviews ago, but like if there was a book on how to songwrite, then like everyone would do it. It's not something that can just like come at like some people can sit there and write a song every day, and like I wish I was one of those people, but sometimes like that inspiration just doesn't hit. And then like you said, you have those like voice memos and you have those like things that you write down. And that's why I
Yeah.
always love asking that question too, because if people don't mention that, then like what are you actually doing in the music industry, honestly?
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. It's really interesting to hear people's creative process because it's so different. And I'm really interested to hear when people have a different creative process than me. Sometimes it's cool also because then you can kind of pick up things that maybe you can try.
Exactly.
It's a great learning experience too to hear other people's processes.
Yeah, then that's why it's always one of my favorite questions. But this next question that I do ask, it's the hardest question I do ask on the show, honestly. And
Yeah.
it's my second favorite question compared to the songwriting process. But as you know, there's hundreds and thousands of artists out there trying to make a name for themselves. And obviously you're out there trying to do what you can. And then at the same time, there's a million other people out there doing the same thing. So at the end of the day is like you go on social medias and you're making posts and saying like, hey, this is my new song coming out, or hey, this is a song I have, go check it out. When you hit that post button, there's 100 other artists at the same time hitting that post button, so it can be a struggle sometimes. But at the end of the day is what makes you you compared to all these other artists, and what can we kind of take away from your music that we're not going to find in other artists music?
Yeah, that is such a good question. I am a little reticent to say like, oh, you won't find anybody more authentic than me because everybody is authentic in their own way.
Yeah.
I think, the only thing that I can offer that you can't find with other artists is just it's me and it's my
Right.
music. And I think um, I I've been asked the question, how like what advice would you give to artists starting out? How can they stand out? And all I can say is like be yourself because that's really the only thing that you have that nobody else has.
Exactly.
Um, every artist is going to say, I want to write songs to help people feel less alone. We all want that because we crave connection. Every artist is going to say that. Everyone wants to make somebody feel something with their music because we want to feel connected through our emotions, and there's nothing wrong with saying that, but those are common goals that we all have as artists. But the one thing that another artist can't say is that they're you or they're me. So that's really it's yeah. So the way I kind of hope to stand out, and the way I hope people connect with me, is just they like who I am and they like the things that I care about. I'm such a big proponent of, I'm very anti-hustle culture, and I think we might have had this conversation over
Yeah,
text before. But yeah, all of those, I see some people saying like, if you're not grinding for this many hours, and I'm like, okay, but hold on, like you have a
exactly.
life, you've got housework, like it's okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so yeah, so I mean, I think for me, it's about finding a community of people that share similar values as me, that also find value in the things that I have to say and the things that I promote. And yeah, just I kind of think of it as like I'm making friends.
No, exactly. And those are the answers that I love when I ask that question because that's what makes you stand out is you're just you. No one else can be you at the end of the day. And what I always tell people, and this is what I always look for when I have artists on the show, is at the end of the day, is if I was to put one of your songs, obviously we're gonna listen to Light It in a few minutes, but like if you could just put any of your songs in a playlist with 100 different artists like in the same genre as you, or not even in the same genre, at the end of the day is when that song comes on without looking, like when that comes over the loudspeaker, I know who that is because you're you at the end of the day. And that's just really what makes things so special is if people really just tap in and believe themselves and just know that, hey, like no one else can be like me. Like I'm me, this is who I am, and this is what I have to offer. Like no one else can offer that. And that's just really what makes things so special.
Yeah, absolutely.
So kind of getting to the fifth and final question here before we listen to one of your songs, which is always my favorite part of the interview, but kind of looking towards your future a little bit. What are some of your short-term and long-term goals, and just what else can we kind of expect down the road from you?
Yeah, so I guess super short term is Lighted is the first single off of my EP. And I'll be announcing the name of that in the coming months as well. But yeah, it's coming out this summer, and it's 4 songs that I'm really proud of. And yeah, so that's kind of a short-term goal. Is that's part of this collection of songs that I had been working on. I started working on those songs like spring of last year, and they came together really quickly. I think in like a few days, the
Okay.
all 4 songs came together. So it just felt very like serendipitous. And I had just come out of SongCon with Ari Herstand. He did this little songwriting conference, and it was, I think it was just so inspiring to be around other songwriters, and we wrote together in groups, and we just met each other. And so I think coming off of that, I was feeling really inspired, and so wrote that song. And yeah, and as far as what to expect in the future too, I am working on an album. And it's in really early stages. So it's hard for me to say if that's going to be like 2024 or later than that. But I think it's something that it's about something that I had almost put off writing for a really long time.
Mhm.
But then I watched this film. It was called oh my God, Luckiest Girl Alive. I watched that film, and the main character kind of goes through a similar dilemma where she um, isn't sure about talking about what happened to her,
Yeah.
and sharing her story, but she does in the end. And everybody, a lot of women come forward and say, like, that story really inspired me. It helped me. It made me feel less alone. And it empowered me to come forward and talk about my story and things like that. And so that was the moment where I was like, okay, I need to write about this. So I'm really excited to share those songs as well.
No, and that's awesome. And honestly, like I'm a huge fan of the music that you have out now. I'm a huge fan of this new song that's coming out soon. I'm Lighted, which is obviously what we're gonna listen to. And I just can't wait to see what else happens for you. I'm super excited and I'm definitely along for the ride with you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
No, of course. So kind of before we dive right into Lighted, is how did this song kind of come about? What's kind of the whole backstory on this one?
Yeah. I think so. I had been playing around with the idea of songs revolving around the theme of like an element, like the
Mhm.
4 elements. And so this song feels very, it's kind of like that sort of fiery passion that you have like at the beginning of a relationship, or when you're trying to fight your feelings, but like you just can't. And that's kind of what that song is about. Yeah, and so that's sort of what inspired it. I was playing with this idea of like, if I had to describe specific feelings that feel connected to different elements, if I would relate each element to like a different aspect of the human experience and of emotions that we all feel as humans, like where, like what would this be? And so when I thought of fire, I really thought of that, where it feels very like all consuming almost. And it's like once you start it, it just spreads quickly and it can't stop. So yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's awesome. And I mean, I had the chance to listen to this. You'd sent it over, I think like last week or 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
whatever. And like, it's been on repeat. Like, I just love it.
Uh,
It's such a vibe. It's such a jam. And like, I can't wait for it to actually come out so I can start streaming it.
Thanks so much. I'm so glad you like it.
No, of course. So kind of without further ado, we're going to take a little sneak peek to Light It. Technical difficulties, please hold. Come on. There we go.
Know my style, did not resist. Play the game I play to win. If you smile, I got again. No, then boy, I'm done for. Where the hell just have you been? You got me feeling paper thin. If you act like that again, yeah, then boy, I'm done for. Slow me down, I can't get too carried away. Barely know you until I can't turn away. Wish I could shut it down, but I still kinda like it. Wanna change how I feel, but I don't wanna fight it. But it's keep pushing mine, no sparks trying to fire. Maybe it's a light, maybe it's a
So that is a little sneak peek of
light.
Light It. And I mean, it's always hard for me to play it on my end because like I want to sit here and jam out like full vocals and everything, but if I do, then glass will start breaking off my windows and the computer screen will crack, and I'm not trying to pay for the repairs for that right now. But it's just such a like I love the vibe. I love your
Thanks.
vocals, like this the lyrics behind it and everything, like spot on. Like I like I said, I can't wait for that to come out so I can start streaming that.
Thanks so much.
No,
Yeah,
of
that means a
course.
lot.
Of course. So that kind of wraps everything up for today. But before I do my little outro and everything, is where can people go check you out on social media so they can start listening to some of your music and check out what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on Instagram, Ariadne.Mila. I'm also Facebook, same thing, Ariadne.Mila. You can find me there. You can find me on TikTok. I don't use it as much as I used to. I I don't know what happened. It was very overwhelming. But I do love TikTok. So I'm on there as Ariadne.tequila.mila if you are interested in any of the random rants that I have on there. And yeah, so I'm on those. And then obviously on the streaming services, you can find me Ariadne Mila on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, all of those. Yeah.
Awesome. And again, Ariadne, thank you so much just for taking time out of your day to sit here and talk about your story through music.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
No, of course. So that kind of concludes another episode of the Spotlight series hosted by yours truly, ACK. Y'all know the drill at this point is Sundays, 1 p.m. Eastern. We got new music, new stories, new artists. Never know who's gonna pop through. And y'all stay tuned for next week. And thanks for tuning in today.